Deeper dive into yesterday's victory. We're going to be looking at everything that went into the game, where we kind of stand statistically, defensive, who's leading and what. You'll be surprised on how well some of our players are doing. Yes, I know I said I wouldn't talk about it, but a lot of people asked me, so we will look at the playoff race because technically we're still in there, but also we will look at draft picks if we lost the next two games. I will talk about all that. Let's jump into this. What is up, Fin fans? You know, it's a Monday morning, kind of just slowly brought you in there. Got a lot to talk about. You know, Tyreek Hill came out and he said some very interesting things. That's kind of the clip you heard. For some reason, it played on its own. He kind of blamed the rest days, so we'll listen to him talking about that because he was been struggle bus citying for a hot minute. I got some statistics, some charts, some this, some that, records, all that stuff. We're going to look at a lot of things, so buckle up. If you're driving to work, listen up. If you're not, listen up. Let's just jump into this. So on the season so far, Tua Tagovailoa has 19 touchdowns, which is tied for 13th in the NFL, which that's around where I rank him among quarterbacks, and he missed 4 games. He has 2,867 yards, which is tied for which is the 21st, 7 interceptions. He has 101.4 passer rating, which is 8th in the NFL, and he has a 72.9 completion percentage, which is number 1 in the NFL. You have one last thing about Tua. 100th career touchdown pass happened yesterday out of 64 games. 100 career touchdown passes. That makes him the 4th in franchise history, behind obviously Dan Marino, Dan the Man, Greasy, Tannehill, and then him. Now Tannehill has 123 passing touchdowns. Tannehill played also 24 more games. Now, I think if Tua doesn't get hurt and if he comes back, he could throw 23 touchdowns next year, and that's only another 16 games. He could definitely do it, hitting 80, do it quicker than Tannehill did. It doesn't matter. But I thought that was a cool milestone for him to hit that 100th career touchdown. Pretty cool on him. Then we will look at De'Von Achane because that man has been absolutely killing it. He was the reason that the Miami Dolphins had such a good day yesterday. And just there's things that we're going to look at too, because the offensive line, when Isaiah Wynn, because at some point Isaiah Wynn came out and Liam Eichenberg went in. Why? Just don't put Liam Eichenberg back in there. So we're going to look at some of those stats. Also, Robert Jones, struggle bus city. But De'Von Achane has 761 rushing yards on the season, 5 rushing touchdowns. He has 76 receptions, which is tied for 11th among receptions. He has 579 receiving yards, and he has 6 receiving touchdowns, which is tied for 8th among tight ends, running backs, wide receiver. He has tied for the 8th most receiving touchdowns. All-purpose yards, he has 1,340. 1,340. Jonnu Smith, 76 receptions, tied for 11th with De'Von Achane, which I think is hilarious. They both have 76 receptions. 802 receiving yards, which is 4th among tight ends. He has a franchise record with that 802 receiving yards. He has 6 touchdowns, which is tied with Jonnu Smith for 8th in the NFL, which is hilarious to me. And it's 4th among tight ends. So Jonnu Smith right now is the 4th best tight end in the NFL when it comes to receiving touchdowns and receiving yards. And then you have Tyreek Hill, 834 yards, 70 receptions, 6 touchdowns. You see why they're tied. And I want to play this. Now, this is Tyreek Hill post-game.
Moving forward, this was a big motivator for a lot of guys on this team, and it gave everybody on this team the juice that we need moving forward.
Tyreek, on the opening drive when you and Tua weren't able to connect, it looked like you pointed to your visor, your eyes or something. Could you take us through what happened there?
You know what? As a leader, in those moments, I feel like at the end of the day, I need, those valuable reps with Tua. Those rest days are starting to show. And, I completely blame myself for not getting my head around, and not seeing the ball. Because if I see the ball, we talking cross court, 70-yard touchdown. But those Wednesday reps are definitely showing, and as a leader, I just got to be able to, bite the bullet sometime and, practice and get those valuable reps, with QB1, because if we're able to stay on the field on third down, who knows what can happen. Like Devon A-Chain can break 60 yards, Jonu can, catch a screen and go to the house. So just got to be able to, get those valuable reps with the quarterback.
Interesting. Now, if you didn't hear it, because it was low, he said that he feels like those rest days that he has during the week kind of takes away from his reps and from him working with Tua and getting, used to him. So now, are the rests because of him or the rests because of McDaniels? Because we noticed during training camp that McDaniel also had a lot of these guys resting during the season. There's a lot of resting. And is that putting that rust on them where a lot of these guys are kind of struggling when it comes to that? So it's interesting that Tyreek Hill brought up that whole rest situation. Now, again, is he the one who's like, I need a rest day, this, or that? Or is that Mike McDaniel kind of looking at him being like, oh, we'll give you this day off because you're, you don't need the practice. You're the number one guy, rest your wrist. And he's sitting here saying, I need to work with Tua more to get more continuity on that stuff, which I thought was incredibly interesting. Before we look at some charts and some other stuff, I want to talk about the defense. Chop Robinson, 6 sacks on the year after having his sack last week, tied for Brandon Fisk when it comes to rookie sack leaders. So he is tied with Brandon Fisk for sack leaders with 6 sacks. And I'm very happy to hear that. Want him to get, at least 2 more over the next 2 games. Get him up there to around 8.5 sacks. That's the same thing that Jalen Phillips did. Again, if Jalen Phillips can just stay healthy, him and Chop are going to be extremely dangerous. You have Sealer with 8.5 sacks. Is tied for 14th in the NFL. And then I got to talk about the man, the myth, the legend, Jason Sanders, 4th in the NFL and makes field goals with 33. He has an 89.2 completion percentage of field goals, and he is 3rd in the NFL with 11 field goals made of 50-plus yards. There's another stat that is floating out there that he broke his career best, but I'm not going to talk about it because it is a giant jinx. So I'm not going to talk about it. But I will show this. Let's look at the next-gen stats here. Now, this is all fine and dandy. Devon A-Chain getting up to 20 miles an hour. Sealer 2.8 seconds to get that sack. I love the Sealer sack when he was like crawling on the ground and finally brought him down. I thought that was hilarious. Tua spread the ball out all over the field. He took 2 deep shots. Didn't really work. Dropsies. But same thing happened here with Purdy. They kind of just targeted the middle of, kind of under the 20s and do their thing. But this is what I wanted to show you guys. And this is where you see the biggest problem is, right? Devon A-Chain, 10 attempts for 50 yards wide left. 4 attempts for 59 yards and 1 touchdown. 3 attempts for 11 yards. Do you notice how he has a 17 carry, 120 yard, 1 touchdown day, and they ran it 3 times in between the guards? Does that tell you something? Do you now see why we were successful when Kendall Lamb and Teron Armstead were back in here, but our guards suck? That is something that needs to be addressed. Seriously needs to be addressed. Also, seriously needs to be addressed. Receiver average separation. Why is that so low for Tyreek Hill? Like, what the crap, man? That is low. Jonu gets crazy separation, but that's low. Him and Malik, maybe because they're running a lot of screens and a lot of outs and a lot of underneath stuff, they need to push it. And, it kind of comes back to the whole play calling, because some of the play calling is really suspicious. And I talked about it. I made a whole video on Saturday. If you want to go back and watch Saturday's video, where I kind of really talk about the play calling and the motions and kind of how it's not helping the situation. But one other thing I want to talk about, because we are talking about the offensive line, I showed you that chart when it came to the runs on the outside versus the interior. I want you to look at this. This is the average time to throw. Now, this isn't release time. This is how long the quarterback has to get the ball out before he gets pressure. Do you see where Tua is? If you don't, look all the way to the left. That's Tua. Do you see the discrepancy between him and some of the top teams? Your average is 2.8 seconds. He's at 2.4. That's horrible. But he doesn't get sacked because he's forced to get the ball out quickly. So again, people are like, oh, Tua led the league in, yak or, intended air yards for the past few years. And this year he's dead last. That's why he's dead last. He's forced to get the ball out quickly. He's not allowed to let things develop downfield. It shouldn't be rocket science why that's a thing. So, even with that win yesterday, which was fun, again, you had Ross celebrating like they won the Super Bowl, which I'm like, please, Ross, I need you to realize something, Steven. You got to fire him. You got to fire him. You got to fire Chris Greer. You just got to do it, man. I don't care if we go 9-8. I don't care if we eke our way into the playoffs. I don't care if we beat Buffalo in the playoffs. I don't care if we make the AFC Championship somehow. I don't care if all the planets align and everything happens and all of a sudden, oh, look how good this team is. They had a chance to go to the Super Bowl. You need to fire Chris Greer. I made a whole video about it, looking at draft picks, money spent, decisions. Now, don't get me wrong. He made some good decisions. Like I said, we have a great core to build around, and a big chunk of that core we built around, he brought in here. Like I said, Malik Washington, Jalen Waddle, Chop, Devon Achane, Sealer, Jalen Wright, Phillips, when healthy, Tua, when he's consistent. There's a lot to build off of, but he is not the guy to build it. He's not the guy, because he has shown for 6 years that he can't build it. And some people are like, why would you want to move on from him? We've had how many winning seasons, how many playoff appearances, this, and that. Because if you don't, you're going to stay here. You're just going to stay here. You need fresh eyes from an outside source. No interior or from the inside promotion, outside source. Because just imagine where we would be if he made the right decisions, if he focused on the offensive line, if he didn't let players walk, if he kept his draft picks instead of letting them walk. Andrew Van Ginkel, Brendan Jones, so many of them are doing great somewhere else because he let them walk. Got to move on from them. So what we're going to do now, and I know this is going to, some people are going to be like, oh, brother. We're going to look at two different ends of the spectrum, right? And right now, you see where the Dolphins are standing. They are still in the same spot because the Colts beat the Titans. The Colts have not, and Tony Romo brought this up, Colts have not won 3 games in a row all season. So, will the Colts lose to the Giants? No. But will the Colts lose to the Jaguars? That seems more likely. So let's say that happens. Colts lose to the Jaguars, but they beat the Giants. The Miami Dolphins have to win out. So regardless, they have to go into Cleveland and win in the cold. Something they rarely ever do. This is going to be an interesting game, right? If the Steelers win this game, and obviously Buffalo beats the Jets, then the Steelers will, the Chiefs. The Chiefs will, and I think this will happen, but I also think this is a very real possibility. Stick with me. Again, I don't think this is going to happen. I don't think the Dolphins make the playoffs. And even if the Dolphins make the playoffs, I don't think they're going to win. So let me reiterate that for the 1,000th time. You come into the final week of the season. That's where the Dolphins need the Chiefs to lose to the Steelers. So the Dolphin fans are going to be rooting for the Steelers on Christmas. Because in this scenario, if Buffalo wins and the Chiefs lose, the Buffalo Bills get the number 1 seed. But again, if the Chiefs win, it doesn't matter. So the Miami Dolphins need the Chiefs to lose to this Pittsburgh Steelers, because then they will play their starters, and then they will hopefully beat the Denver Broncos. And then if the Dolphins win, they make the playoffs. That being said, I'll even give you this. I'll give you some of this. I think this will happen. And then this last game of the season is going to be interesting. Where is it? Why isn't my eyes working properly? Right here. I think they win. And I think they win. So that's how I think it'll go. This is how it'll go. What I think will happen, because the NFL loves the Kansas City Chiefs, I think that will happen. And I think that will happen. And I think that is going to be your seed. I also think that will happen. I think that's what your playoffs are going to look like when Week 18 ends. I think you'll have the Kansas City Chiefs as your number 1 seed. I think you'll have your Buffalo Bills as your 2, 3, 4. And then you have this whole situation. Now, this game, it won't be a cakewalk here. So, you know, they play in the cold and they got a good defense. So I don't think this is going to be much of a cakewalk, and their defense isn't good. I think they win this one. This also, I think they win this one, which means that Chiefs will face the Steelers and the Bills will face the Ravens. And that would suck, because for the Bills anyway, because Ravens are a good team. Now let's look at this realistically before we get out of here and look at draft pick wise. Now I'm going to pick every game like I think it's going to go, right? So I think they'll win. I think they'll win. I'm going to pick them because they sucked butt. I think they will win. I honestly think they will win. This is going to be a very good game. I'm surprised they didn't flex this. I wonder if they flexed this one up. No, they didn't flex this one up. We got flexed out of the Sunday night game, if you didn't know. So we are not playing Sunday night against the Browns. I think we're playing at 4 o'clock. I'll talk about that later this week. I think they'll win. And it's going to be crazy, because watch what happens for this number 1 seed for anyone who cares. I think the Saints win this one. Carolina could sneak up and win this one. Good for them winning yesterday, but I think Tampa wins this one. This is going to be interesting. I'll get into the Dolphins. I just want to make it realistically, see where we're at draft pick wise. I think they win. I think they win. And I think they win, right? Then it comes down to, which is great, this is going to be a fantastic game. Whoever wins this game is going to win the division. I think it'll be them. Not the division, get the number 1 seed, which I think it'll be them, which sucks because then all of a sudden you don't have any home field advantage. I think Arizona wins this one. They'll win this one. That will go there. I think they win this one because they'll probably have to win to stay in the playoffs, or not. Don't matter. I think they'll win this one. I think they'll win this one, and they'll stick with that. Sticking with that, they'll win this one. They'll probably try to keep in race with that. They'll win this one, help them win the division. I think Houston will win this one. Now, if the Dolphins win out and that happens and they don't make the playoffs, they will be picking 16th. And this is why I did this, so you guys can see where we're picking. If the Dolphins lose out and they lose to the Jets and they lose to the Browns, which is a possibility because they don't play well in the cold, they will be picking 12th. So the best they could pick, I think I said 16th. I mean, the best they could pick is 12th. The worst they could pick is 16th. Now, for things to really go bonkers, and I'm going to do this just for poops and giggles, I'm going to pick every bad team to win. Every single bad team. Now, this one's really a crapshoot. Don't really matter. Every single bad team to win. Every single one of them. I want all the bad teams to win. Hold on. Dallas. Atlanta. Every bad team. Let's go. Win them all. Let's go. I want them all to win. Cleveland, you're going to win. You're going to win. You're going to win. I want them all to win. You're going 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 to win. 11th. That's why I wanted to do it. So again, the best Dolphins will be picking is 12th. So they'll be around the top 10 if they lose the next 2 and things fall the way they fall. Best case scenario, they'll be picking around 16, if that makes any sense. So give you an idea of draft picks, what we need, and draft what could happen. But overall, enjoy the win from yesterday. Do I think they'll win in Cleveland? We'll see. It's going to be hard. It's going to be freezing in Cleveland. It's going to be freezing in New Jersey. It was 19 degrees here yesterday, so it's going to be cold. Can they beat that narrative? Can they win in the cold? They're going to face bad quarterbacks. The Browns don't have a good quarterback. Is it going to be Jameis Winston or not? And Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. We saw how they did against the Rams, who the Dolphins did better against the Rams with. So we'll see how the next two games pan out. But if come Saturday, so Saturday before the Dolphins play the Browns, the Broncos and the Chargers will be playing that game Saturday versus the Patriots and the Bengals. If the Broncos and the Chargers win both of those games, the Dolphins are eliminated before they even play the Browns. So that Saturday game is going to be pivotal for the Dolphins to watch, for one of the teams to lose. But other than that, comment below. Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you tomorrow. Yes, I am doing a film breakdown, and also tomorrow you're going to get the picks. You're going to get 2 videos tomorrow. Then I have a special video for you guys planned for Christmas. Nice, Merry Christmas. And then preview on Friday. You know, all that other stuff on Saturday. And then I'll see you guys Sunday with my dad again. But like usual, stay classy. That ends up.